Today I've come for a drive up to Yanchep National Park. But up here we have caves, which I'm going to first, and then I'm going to walk around the lake. So you'll get to see plenty up here, and then we will go into the wildlife place over there and see some koalas up close. We will catch you at the end. Beautiful. The only noise you should hear around here are the birds and the cicadas. This is just a quick glimpse of the lake out over this usually the ducks are already flying in and everything. So the walk is right around the back side of the lake there under those trees. They had huge bushfires out here not so long ago. I'll show you some of that when I go back to my car. There's some ducks down there. You can see through there where the fire came to. It's just jumped around. You see better from where my car's parked. You can actually still smell the smoke. You can see how much the grass trees have grown. Their tops have grown again. Don't know whether you can see in this light. The sun's quite bright. But all these grass trees are growing back up. I don't know why the fire just jumped in here, because all around it's all green. But a spark maybe jumped in from somewhere. This is where we come for the crystal caves, and we go down through a stairwell in that building over there. Okay, as you'll know, caves are underground. I have been down here before, a few years back on Christmas. Alright, I'll give you a story here. You just have to pause it to read it. You'll no doubt hear the lady or the man doing the commentating as well.
Good morning.
Hello. Are you our guide, are you?
Oh yeah, you're on the 11?
Yeah.
Alright, cool. Is it just you or got someone?
No, I don't know. There might be another family I saw down there.
Some more?
Yeah, there may be.
But you're by yourself?
I'm by myself, yeah.
No worries. There's a safe code over here.
Oh, right,
Yeah.
I'll do that, yep. I'm videoing it for YouTube.
Okay.
So your voice will be on YouTube.
Alright.
Is that alright?
Not a problem.
I have to ask
Gonna
permission.
do a good job? No, you can do that. No, well actually it doesn't drip. I put it, yeah, that's true. Sometimes it has at different times it's dripped, but it's just so that, you know, we've got,
Okay.
and then of course we've got our everlasting, which are not bad. Which,
This is a gentleman that's taking us down into the caves. You'll have seen him speak before. This is the gentleman who's going to be our guide.
G'day, I'm Rob.
And I have permission to put him on YouTube.
She does.
Okay, thanks.
Crystal Cave is the only cave that's open to tourism regularly in the region. It's a few rules. And the rules are, there's no touching the crystal formations in the cave. It's because we've got this invisible oil on our skin. It gets on the formations, affects how they grow. I want to keep them in the best condition we can, yeah? Don't touch the crystal.
I've learned about that.
You do? Yeah, they can break easy too. You know what? We're going to be denied the sun, so let's go and enjoy a little bit before we go. We've got a couple more rules, but let's come out this way. Can we hear our carnabies? A bit of a cry there. And this is one of their perch trees around here. This is what we call the tulip tree. Eucalyptus gomphricephala. That's what's above us at the moment. Okay? And you'll see the other end of it in the cage, so you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's much easier to remember the tulip tree, isn't it? Because the carnaby's tulip. Yeah. Well, the koalas maybe. But anyway. But actually, I haven't finished the rules. Oh. You have to duck your heads. You might get away with it. See what happens. Just make sure when you duck under low things, you're really clear before you bring your head up abruptly. It's obviously going to hurt. You don't want that, yeah?
Right, you can do that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It is easy to forget, okay? So look out. Look out for yourself, obviously, primarily, but if you can look out for others as well, that would be great. Yeah. So just take it easy. Stay on the path. You should be fine. If you want to bring water in, we're good with that. No other beverages. No smoking. No eating. Kids, chewies, lollies, stuff like that. All that kind of thing. Right.
Oh, you can feel the cold already. Thank you.
Oops.
Oops. I put clean boots on before I came in.
I don't really.
Area, Miami. We've got Miami Volcrupies, and then there's like, you get the, the Zealous spiders, the daddy longlegs. Further in, there's Pizorids, which is a fishing spider.
Ah,
Also
fishing
have-
spider. What does it
yeah.
catch?
Not much. Not
Tuna?
Much. There's not
No
enough
tuna?
water, unfortunately.
That's a shame.
We have the Pizorids. There's some others. There's like the Floridids.
Oh, it's
Other ones
frozen.
you won't see.
It's a tiny bit.
I bet you'll feel them.
You can see the lights.
You won't see many spiders on this tour. They're in a cave. They're in a cave for a reason, because it's dark and uninterrupted typically. And this cave is not quite dark. It seems dark to us, but it is interrupted. And here we are interrupting it. Deathly quiet, which is cool. Where's the bats? And where's the bats? Bats. There's no bats, and you knew that.
No bats.
Yeah, cool. We actually have bats in the park, but they don't tend to like living in the caves so much anymore. So yeah, we have plenty of bats that are arboreal, living in the tree hollows and stuff like that.
It's because of all the light and stuff. They don't like the light.
Oh, but you know what I wonder though, and I think you're probably quite right, is that even our dark caves, like there's a cave called Yanchep Cave, that's easy to remember, okay, and that always had bats, in 1906, about 10 tonne of guano were extracted from it, which is bat poo, yeah. And over the next 50 odd years, they just slowly reduced the amount of bats that came there.
Wow.
Just and to the point. So a friend of mine who I still go caving with, he told me in the late 50s, early 60s, he was there and it was the last he saw of the bats. And he's still an active caver. He's a cool dude, Lex Bastion. It's called Tamala limestone, product of a series of ice ages. So much more ice, the world less ocean. Sea levels are lower, the wind blows and it scours up all this rich calcareous material from the exposed seafloor, bits of smashed up coral and shellgrit. All those fine particles are swept up as dunes. For 1,000 kilometres from Shark Bay, right down to the southwest corner.
That's so cool.
It's a long way. Yeah, and of course, as soon as those dunes were then exposed to the rain, they began to dissolve because rain is mildly acidic. It's picked up some carbon from carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, creates a mild solution of carbonic acid. It's quite reactive. Slowly, it's calcified into this stone you have around you. It's an ongoing process that's been happening for thousands of years. Yet the cave is relatively young. This annex chamber, as we call it, it's a few 100,000 years old, maximum. Sounds pretty ancient, but it's quite youthful, as far as some caves go. And some of you have probably been in caves, I'll bet, and you remember what these things are called? Stalactites.
Oh yeah.
Are the
Stalagmites.
stalagmites. And the stalagmites might just get up to the roof. They keep I haven't told you why the cave's here though, and it's all to do with groundwater movement. So geographically, this part of the world's referred to as the Swan Coastal Plain. It's this huge sedimentary sand pit we're on. There's thousands of metres of sediment that are beneath us, and amongst it is groundwater. It's concentrated eastward. We call it the Nangara Mountain. It's a series of aquifers. Subterranean water bodies that are stacked. They're pushing water out continuously. In fact, at this moment, water's moving slowly beneath your feet out to the ocean. Long ago, when it contacted the base of limestone, it began to dissolve away, and of course, eventually dissolved so much. What do you reckon's going to happen? Collapse. All the rocks fell into the stream. That's why there's all these boulders here, you see? They're all falling from above. So you're actually seeing the profile there of an old dune getting younger as we get to the top where it's quite pale.
Yeah.
It's the base of the youngest dune. You can even notice the lack of contact with the rock below. It's the junction between those two dunes, different age. With all that rock come crashing down, it's like there's a dam in place. So the water can't flow through freely, starts finding other ways around. It's dissolved a passage off to the south there, but most of it went off to the north. That's where we're going to go shortly. So you've got an idea how we get our caves here.
Carrying them down.
Very cool in there. So the water came out from there. Here in this cavern, that's clean, isn't it? Look at it, much easier. All you got to do is make sure you don't bring up your head too abruptly the other end.
That's what they do.
What?
Have you thought that you tried the descent?
Oh yeah.
Remember that?
Wow.
Oops, here we go. Just about crawl through this one. Tell me if my head's going to hit the
No,
top.
your head's fine, your backpack. Yeah, you're okay. Keep ducked though, keep going. Okay, you can sort of stand up. You've got a beam above you though. Keep going. Nearly there. There you go.
Ah, wow.
Right, this is what we call the Pantheon chamber. Right, it's a chamber that was formed by the movement of groundwater. Has anyone been here a long time back at all?
Yeah, a long time ago.
Long time, yeah. Like 20 years plus, you talk?
No, 10.
Oh, okay. Long for some.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you've been in over 20 years ago or longer, you would have still seen the last of an actually going stream that was flowing through. That was the water table. It's declined dramatically. And that's because, of course, firstly, we've got so many more people. Population's been growing. We demand more water. Most of us here in the Perth area where we have such high evaporation rates, over double our annual rainfalls evaporating back in the atmosphere as vapour. So you've got pine trees, all those little needles. They're so well structured for keeping water high in their canopy. Plenty of time for the air to take away as clouds. We lose it. If it gets to ground level, the soil is water repellent, holds the water out. Again, the air takes it. And if it gets actually in, that dense network of trees just sucks it up, transpires it through the canopy. So we're losing all those ways. Industry, agriculture. I wish I was finished. I bet you do too. But no, climate change. The whole southwest of Australia has been declining in rainfall on average since the 1970s. When you put it all together, it's had a catastrophic effect on our water table. Sounds like a pranganectoid amphipod. And it had a lineage that went right the way back to Gondwana. We're talking 100 odd million years back. Times were lush. There was lots of rainforest around. And the ancestors of these creatures survived in the wetlands found above the Darling Escarpment. Now, as Australia became more arid with the continental breakup, these and many other organisms sought refuge. They found it here, the subterranean, the lower plains, protected from the light, bathed in the waters that flowed through. They had another secret: food pumping on demand. Sounds like a tall story, doesn't it? But there it is. Right through there. There was a very different structure down at the base. You would get a network of lateral roots spanning out sideways, creating what we call a root mat. And that's the foundation of the ecology for all those aquatic organisms. With no free-flowing water, no true root mats form, it's led to extinction. At least, you know the truth of what's happened around here. As far as I know, it doesn't really have a name. Maybe Nangara is probably the best name for it, but they just call it the superficial, that first bit at the surface. Yep. Which has declined dramatically. In fact, when you were down there on those floorboards, it's beyond 3 metres beneath your feet, which is actually quite a decline in 20 years when you consider it used to be able to be seen. Always. So yeah, and then it goes into Leederville Aquifer, and then there's various others right down to the deepest and most extensive, which is the Yarragadee, which is massive. Anyway, So, cave formations are generically referred to as speleothems, and that takes in all the different structures and forms you tend to find around here. You might have expected a bit more water dripping here and there if you've been in caves before. Hardly a drop. Now you have come at a dry time of the year, of course. It is winter. You think, hang on, is it? What I mean by dry time of the year for the cave is because it takes a while for that water to get through, and we honestly haven't had really enough rain yet for obviously these to have shown any sign of it. But I'm telling you, at different times of the year, all through the year, in times past, there would have been different drops here and there. There's just become less and less. I've noticed over the years, less water getting through for shorter periods of time. This is the continuing trend. Even when we get a good year, it might mean it'll drip for longer and we get a bit more, but it still stops and becomes less. For example, these here always used to drip. Dry. They'll start, or hopefully they'll start. But anyway, this is actually obviously our lack of rain, this is the factor, but our limestone is actually quite soft and porous. It's actually like a sponge. So like a sponge holds water inside it, only excess water drips out, a wet sponge, doesn't it? So as the landscape's drying, there's more capacity to hold water in the rock itself. So what would naturally happen is water would percolate through, and it goes through a chemical reaction. It's the carbon dioxide in the water reacting to the calcium carbonate in the limestone. A calcium bicarbonate ion enters solution, and the mineral which would precipitate out of each little drop of water as it degasses is called calcite. So that's what they're all formed from. They're all calcite crystal mineral deposits. And you notice many are very thin. They look a bit like noodles or fat spaghetti. Those are the ones we call straws. Just like a straw you can have a drink out of, they're actually hollow tubes, in this case crystal.
Are they? Are they hollow?
Yep, the straws are hollow. So what actually happens to them is, you see, they can get a blockage just like any straw could.
Sure.
The build-up of calcite stops the water drip out the bottom. It'll then begin to overflow at the top. It'll start cascading down the outside of the straw, thus creating a tapering cone-like structure. And that's how you get your stalactite, from an overflowing block straw. When it drips off, boop, it's
I was going to ask you
stalagmites.
how they're actually so sort of wide on that side, and there's some of them are quite thin as well.
Yeah, so
Okay.
they're not regular, are they? And
No.
the thing is that sometimes there can be little conduits that allow the water to escape out sideways. So instead of that standard
Like that.
procedure of it just overflowing at the top, if there's a tiny little rupture or a little gap, sometimes it can seep out sideways. Like for example, where that spur comes
Yeah.
out. Okay, and you get other factors. There's many factors, which is why they're so diverse in their structures, that create. See, for example, how they go out sideways, jutting out. These are called helictites. I was actually going to go into more detail of that later, but this is another factor of capillary rise, allows waters to grow, water to go up in different. This point was joined to this point. There's been some movement. It's fractured apart. It's been rejoined back together. It's happened through different sections. Clear, tiny little molecules of calcite crystal. They're floating around inside that, and what happens is surface tension allows those molecules to typically cling to the outside of the drop of water. It's a bit like when you get a drop of water on a coffee table. You don't get just a spot, you tend to get a little tiny ring. If it dries, there's a little tiny ring circle. And it's because surface tension holds things at the outside. It's just why, if you link all the rings together, you get a cylinder. And it just grew. Just to show here, even in WA, that happens. I mean, if you're in another part of the world, you know, New Zealand or something, looks completely different. But imagine, like in that first chamber, you saw a few solution pipes here, and imagine thousands coalesced. There wouldn't be much limestone, just pinnacle-like structures. Everything else is dissolved away except for the non-soluble yellow sand. So just help you put it in perspective, the same sort of landscape all around here, and how this is all crystal here. See? It's like toffee, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
It's like it flowed over the rock that way because the boulder was upright. It's dissolved from underneath long ago. It's toppled over. Is that all these sandboards, all these floorboards got sanded down and it created a lot of dust, which obviously we tried to clean up as much as we could, but a lot of it got in the cave environment. And in fact, for a while there, it seemed like we were actually, time for a decade prior, when we were just pumping water all the time there. And over there's our Loch McNess monster Nessie. You see her up there? Like she's got a unicorn horn on her head.
Yeah.
Oh, some people say like a wolf or a bear. Its head over the back of the rocks up there. Let's go and have a closer look, shall we? Yeah. And humidity is about 18 degrees, and it doesn't change very much either. Actually, it was 18. It's probably close to 17 and a half now. But yeah, still talking half a degree. About 5 degrees is the maximum fluctuation through the year. It's about 15 is about as cold as it would ever get here. 20 degrees is about as hot as it ever gets, and of course it's the upper areas, warm air rises, vapour condensing as droplets. There used to be like looking up at the Milky Way here, like with all the little stars, but you hardly see it. You're a little bit here. Actually, some of it's starting to, it will start to come back, but there used to be heaps of it, but it is really drying out. You might also notice the screen in patches. It's called lampen flora.
There's one there too.
It's a unicellular algae. It's growing because those old hot lights are always so common. I suppose I would have been trying to grow stalagmites here. It's because this is a nice active one, thankfully. It's good that we've got a few. There's not many, well, it's not a highlight. I'm supposed to do that.
Oh, that's okay.
Cut everything.
No, I was just wondering because it's like
I
a
should have
flat
done
area.
that. So thank you for
Yeah.
actually bringing that up because I forgot. Some different sorts of crystals here. You see them sticking out sideways. Little spikes and spines and protrusions. These are called helictites, these unusual structures that seem to defy gravity. Some of them are really fine, like little needles. You see some of them sticking out. I mentioned the helictites already, so I shouldn't need to have to go into them so much. Which is why we're a little bit over time, actually. But you can see quite a lot of helictites, a lot more evident here than the other location. And I believe that it's really due to the nice high purity of calcium carbonate and the high humidity environment with this all-bed water. So you notice how there's no contact here between the wall and the floor, the entire length? It's because for thousands of years continuously water was flowing, dissolving away the base of the limestone. Of course, eventually, dissolved so much it destabilised the area and the collapse, left this arching cavern that we're in. All that rock that fell in, it actually pushed the water wider, further broadening this water table slot feature. But given enough time, most of that obstructive material dissolved away and you're left with these large open caverns you can move through quite easily. Now, I'd just like to actually correct what I said. No, I reckon that you're right. It is the paper, and as I said, I hadn't done a tour here for a
The
while.
crystals.
And consequently, I hadn't seen it quite like this, and it
Yeah.
does look like it's forming paper
It
on
does.
top. So that is exactly what it is. It's just that I'm so
Yeah,
used to people
crystals
asking
in
that
the
in
crystal
sand,
cave.
and
Yeah.
so that's normally my answer. And I kind of now I'm looking at it.
It
You're
looks
right.
like it's
That's what it is,
collecting,
mate.
yeah.
You're onto it. Yeah, that's what it is. I'm sure.
They're all around here.
See in the back corner the crocodile in the back wall? You see his little teeth? Yeah?
That's what made them
Yeah. So that was the dog tooth spar again with those little crystals that only form in solution. Otherwise, it was always religious iconography back in the day, as you know.
Yeah. I imagine that's where they go to.
Yeah. This one over here looks like a big sarcophagus. Your religion is Egyptian.
No, so it's like a what's the word?
Anyway, what I can tell you is that the Aboriginal folk, they believed that there was a spirit that inhabited and haunted these dark places called the Jinka, and for this reason they did not used to come to the dark zones of these caves. Absolutely too good to be out here. Believing the Jinka well too. Extracting starches out the tree roots to feed off of, and has a symbiotic relationship with the vegetation. Now, in actual fact, it actually sometimes vanishes for long periods of time, and it was here last year, and then it went away for about 9 months. It's back. It's been there for about nearly 2 months, and what will happen is the tree roots will eventually, that fungal mantle will effectively die off. It'll die back, and then the tree roots will come back hard after. So this is the natural. It's not the natural thing. It is a natural thing, but it's its new natural thing. Because what would have happened is it would have just had animals living in there that would have been grazing on it, and so it would have been like in this continual balance of, fungus, tree roots feeding, things kind of going through a cycle. Whereas now it's like it sort of booms and busts, and it just goes through this spiky tooth mouth. That's those dog tooth spar crystals, the ones that only grow in water. Because water was trapped in there because the rock we're on is all connected to the root here, which is why you can see these clusters of dog tooth spar crystal. So they're formed in these horizontal bands parallel to one another. That's where the water was perched up high because this rock was connected. And there's more when you start to look around here too, because when water was trapped there, it was so rich in calcium carbonate it forms a crust on the surface like a floating raft of crystal, or just like the floating rafts of paper. You'd actually get in a lot of natural cave pools over time, you get these floating crystalline rafts that happen quite quickly. Surprisingly, compared to other speleothems, which can take thousands of years to develop into something significant, whereas these actually grow relatively quickly because they're so very fine and they're just concentrated minerals on the surface floating in the water, like what you get on hard water in a hard water tank. Have you ever seen how there's stuff sitting on the surface of
Like the scales.
because that's where things sort of float to, and so they accumulate and they're just naturally hardened there, so they grow a lot faster. But basically, wherever water sits, it's a bit like nature's graffiti. You know what it says, don't you? Read it? What's it say? This water was here. Happy to see you, isn't it?
Yeah.
Smile.
Just thank you very much.
Most welcome.
Sorry,
Very informative.
Rob. You're most welcome. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Thank you.
And if you want to see a bit more, go for a walk through Boomerang Gorge. It'll only take you time. It doesn't cost anything. Just at the bottom of this one-way circuit on the right-hand side. It was a cave,
Oh, yeah,
and
I've
it's
been
all
there.
long ago collapsed. Now it's an open gorge structure. It's
Yeah.
an interpretive sign, so you know what you're looking at as you go through.
All right.
So
Cool.
there you go. All right,
Thanks.
no worries. At least you know. No worries. See you. Enjoy.
See you on YouTube.
Bye. Okay. Look out.
Well, done the cave. Now I'm just going to have some lunch. The ducks heard me rattling the paper and they all came running. But I ate it all. Look at those two having a great chase. Must be season when they're all fighting for each other's rights. What do you call them? Swans doing it the other day. Oh, these two, they're going to have it off. rooms here to rent, accommodation, camping ground, hotel, the caves, and a gorge. Can't remember what he called it. Doesn't look like I can take a walk around the lake from this angle because I can't get back. Well, that's a shame. A big shame. I was so looking forward to this. Alright, we'll go and see the koalas. Looks like the bridge got burnt. That was the burnt planks. We'll go and see if we can find some koalas. You look in the gum trees.
I was thinking there was no koalas in here.
Yeah, me
And then I
too.
got around to here and that one's eating, and then I just looked up and there's another one there, another one over there.
Yeah, I'll get those. The lady just told me that they were here. There he is. That's one, that's three. Oh, there's one up further in those other branches. Oh, look at him cleaning himself. Oh well. This is the area we used to bring the residents to. And then I'd take them for a walk along there to that little landing thing. I was told this was a Aboriginal burial casket kind of thing, coffin. I'll have to Google it to find out, but I'm pretty sure. I have to say that I do like coming here. It's very pretty, very serene. The noise of the birds, cicadas. It's good. It's cool. I'd just like to say thanks for watching, and I hope that all those people that are going to watch the Yanchep thing, all of Rob's friends, the guide, hi to you guys. So anyway, if you like my videos, subscribe, like the video, make a comment if you wish, I don't mind. Tell your friends, as I do trips around Perth, just drive somewhere or catch the bus or the train or whatever. So a couple of things I couldn't do here today, like the walk around that over there, but I'll leave it for another time. I was going to go to the gorge, but I'm going to leave that too, so I can do both those things next time. And we'll catch you on the next video. Cheerio!